If you were to rewind back 3 years when you were getting serious and getting started, would you do things differently? Would you build differently? Or do you think you would follow the exact same path that you have?
I would have not expanded into so many sites because, like, with the way it's going now, with requiring a big brand, but there being so much potential spoils of war if you can be the big brand in the space. Any more effort I could have done in getting there, doing more with like the main sites that have the best shot at it, I would have done. I think about it like 6 months ago, but I'm just going to spend a few days writing these buyer's guides for like this tiny site that has no DR and less chance of ranking, whatever. And it's like, if I'd spent that same time on 3 articles on the main site, that each could have made $200 a month. So that's just such a bad choice. And I wasn't being selfish enough and prioritizing my time right. And so doing more can mean that you actually get less results. And I would slim down, focus more, been more focused on 1 or 2 or 3 rather than half a dozen different projects.
Would you have known which projects those were to focus on without having all the projects? Or do you think you had to have all the projects in order to look back and say, man, I should have only focused on those few?
The first site I started is the biggest. The second site I started is the second biggest, and whatever else. It sort of feels like is if I just focused on the main ones, I'd be rich.
Interesting. That's good advice, man. It's so hard for people it's definitely hard for people not to create other brands, for sure. I also, on a personal level, I also see the benefit of diversifying as well. I've seen that in my own couple of brands. I'm like, oh, wow. When I've had a big change to site 1, site 2, that I have just surpassed the first site, I'm like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And so I feel like I can see if there's an argument, if you will, I could see people's arguments on both sides. Hey, focus on one brand and grow it greatly, or just, hey, focus on brands, but maybe not half a dozen or whatever, unless you have a giant team or something.
Yeah, the little things can make a lot of difference over time, where it's just like the better about us page, like really nice looking team page that it's difficult to do 6 times, or like just better internal linking that has you just that bit more solid across the board, higher editorial standards and stuff. Like it really shows. And I can see in my projects, like if you saw some of my smaller sites, you think that I was trash at SEO, and it's fair, but it's just if you divide your attention enough, just the standards drop and it's just not solid.
I agree with you so much. Like when you launch a new site, I feel like it's like, oh, it's easy. The design, and I have keyword research, and I put it through my content process, and that's it. But then I feel like we forget about all those other things that you just were mentioning, like that when you get to like level, I don't know, whatever, let's just break it into levels. You get to level 1, then, oh, there's these other things you'll want to do. And then when you reach this level, oh, there's these other things you'll want to build upon. And all those take time. And so when you multiply that by half a dozen or dozen sites, yeah,